Hello, everyone. We are broadcasting live now all over Facebook, social media, and we're also recording this for future reference. We're talking about the 3 Martini Lunch, which is a national virtual networking event. It's been going on for over a year, but if this is your first time, welcome. We have people from the East Coast, from the West Coast, and what we do have in common is we like to share success because we know success is contagious, and apparently it's working because in the last few weeks we've heard a lot of success from our panelists and emails from attendees that are saying that by helping other people, they're having great success. Excuse me. A part of the structure of this program is we select every week a question for all the panelists to answer. Last week, one of the panelists, Adam Bricker, he created and asked the question. This week, Jenny Midgley, who's not quite on yet, she'll be on in just a minute, is going to propose what the question of the week is. While we're waiting for that to happen, why don't, if you could, panelists, I'll call your name, especially, I haven't seen Rhonda in a while. Rhonda, why don't you share some of the successes you've had either for yourself, your business, or family in the last few weeks?
You know, actually, it was interesting. I've been working with a business coach, and I had probably one of the most successful months in March that I've had in the last 12 months. And largely, it was due to networking, referrals, and speaking. So that was pretty cool. That was actually really exciting. And I got both my shots, so I'm totally excited. I'm actually having a live birthday party this Saturday for all of my vaccinated friends. So there'll be about 10 of us.
So which vaccine did you get?
I got Pfizer, and I had 0 reaction, literally.
That's like that's the gold standard one, right?
My husband had Moderna, I had Pfizer. All I know is, all I got was black and blue on my arm from the shot, but.
They stopped doing the Janssen or the
Johnson & Johnson, yeah, they stopped.
Temporarily stopped it.
Yeah, so those are the successes, and I guess you could consider a success since my computer died yesterday, literally smoke. The good news was I have a backup, right? I had bought a computer and I never really got it set up. So bad news is my computer died. Good news is I have a computer. So all in all, I'd say, you know, it's all kind of going in the right direction. And we're finally going to Hawaii in May for our 40th wedding anniversary, which we were supposed to do in October. So that's all cool.
Is that your first trip to Hawaii?
Oh, no, we have timeshare. We go every year.
Oh, okay, great. But it's been a year probably then.
It's been a year, yeah.
Yeah, as far as, you know, I was looking, we got our quarterly reports for our brokerage, and in our district, which is in Raleigh Central, our sales are 56% higher than they were this quarter last year. And keep in mind, we weren't even impacted by COVID yet last quarter, the first quarter of last year. So sales are way up, and our agents are much more successful. So any of you real estate agents out there that want to make the move over to Fathom, you know, please do. So today, this week, the question of the week is going to be posed by Jenny Midgley. So she's going to propose the question. And as I go around and ask you the question, Jenny's going to do a follow-up question with you, just to make sure that, you know, she understands what you're saying and that everyone else is understanding you as well. Welcome, Jenny. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Now that I'm finally here. I was a little bit flustered for a minute.
Little technical difficulties.
I was frantically texting Sher going, I can't get in. My link isn't working. Like, I was freaking out. But also my new assistant started yesterday, so she may have gotten a little bit excited by the possibility of cleaning up the mess that was my inbox. So who knows what happened, but.
You probably had last week's link instead of this week's.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. You'll have a clean inbox. So that's a good thing. So before you ask the question, because you created the question this week, you get to share a little bit about what you do and what makes you successful for your clients.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just laughing at Dominic's comment. We're spelling everything in the chat starting with a P, and it's okay. Anyway, Pfizer discussion. Yeah, so my name is Jenny Midgley. I am a content creator. I'm a digital content expert and brand and marketing photographer, and usually quite polished and able to speak, unlike what I'm presenting right now. So I help my clients get seen and stay seen by their ideal audience on the digital platforms, website, social media, email, wherever their people are. I help them get seen there and engage with their ideal clients and customers, because it doesn't matter if you put out 100 pieces of digital content a day if it's not getting seen. I also have a podcast. It's called Girls Who Do Stuff, and we interview people to help them share their unique stories and have an impact on their community as well as our listeners. And let's see, I have a studio. I'm based out of the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I do typically travel, not in COVID times, for the photography side. My photography focuses on headshots and branding specifically. I don't do weddings. I don't do babies. I don't do, the cute little kids running through if your kids are part of your brand, I'll absolutely photograph them, but that's not my bread and butter at all.
Weddings for babies.
No.
Frankly,
weddings or babies, no. If you're a wedding, I don't know on what industry that you would need me to photograph your wedding as part of your business, I would outsource that, because I stay in my lane.
Excellent. So I noticed you're wearing cat ears today. Did your daughter put them on you?
No, it's my glasses.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought it was a new, a fashion.
It does kind of look like cat ears now.
Oh, did you think it was cat?
Yeah, no, I guess it does. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, no, they're my blue blockers, but I didn't realize how much they were reflecting on the screen. So,
Well, here you are. So you have a great question for us this week. You sent me two. I thought they were both very good.
Well, thank you.
Which one are you going to use today?
So today, the question of the day is, what are the most important boundaries in your life and in your business?
And for people that might need to, do you want to just jump in with that, or do you want to give them a little explanation of what you mean by that? Do you want to answer the question yourself?
I can certainly give an explanation. So one of the things that is really, really hard for a lot of business owners and sales professionals is to turn things off. So a boundary, right, by definition, is a border, right? It's a area in which things stop. And it's hard because of various FOMO or feeling like, or you let the emotions run instead of looking at things from a logical, analytical perspective, or there's a lot of reasons why you may fudge those boundary lines when it comes to clients, customers, networking, business, life, kids, whatever. But they're really, really important to maintain, right, for a healthy person. For all things healthy, for a healthy business mindset, for a healthy personal mindset, for a healthy life, spiritual mindset, boundaries are really important. So it's a conversation that I find often is not really had. People don't realize that the reason that they're feeling like they're drowning and burned out is because they're not maintaining their boundaries. And it comes up when we talk about marketing. It's shocking. It was initially shocking to me, and then it was more of like, well, duh, of course it does. The amount of emotional and mental and personal stuff that comes up when we talk about marketing plans for a solopreneur and a business with a face. So we talk a lot about boundaries.
It's difficult from a marketing standpoint, because if your client can't make the time to speak with you, you sort of have to go in blindly and do that marketing for them. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that happens to you at least some of the time, correct?
Yeah. It's about, it happens, but it's more about just, are you aware of it happening? Is the client aware? Because if you're not aware, then that's another conversation. There's a pre-conversation to the conversation about what's happening. Mm-hmm. So.
And we have some clients, we'll be reaching out to them on a regular daily basis, not being able to reach them, and we just have to continue.
Yeah. I mean, and he knows it too. So it's not like I'm calling him out, but I have a client that signed over 13 months ago and we still haven't done his pictures. And every couple of weeks I just check in and I'm like, hey, you ready for me yet? And like over the course of time though, like he's contacted me and been like, hey, can we just talk about this? Like, I would appreciate your input on this. Like, and don't hate me. I know I haven't scheduled my photos yet. Like, it's cool. So we've actually like developed a kind of working relationship that's going to help me come photo day because I know more about the ins and outs of him. And,
those clients are difficult because initially they start off feeling a little guilty.
Yeah.
But then the response to feeling guilty for a very long period of time is
right. And my response to that is always, it's cool. It has to be done when you're like, it has to, both times have to mesh, right? Like the timetables have to work. And if they don't work, then it's not going to be successful regardless. So if there's something in there that's causing a lack of readiness or a lack of commitment or whatever it is, there's a reason behind it. And so once we get to the root of the reason, then we can work with it. And so,
he's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah, he does.
Let's go to Arline because she may have to check out earlier. She's not certain. She's waiting for a call. But Arline, what are the most important boundaries for you, or you feel others should set in both their business and personal life? What are the boundaries in between them? Is she talking?
She's muted.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I think I tend to be too lenient. Like, I need to set those boundaries for myself to reflect on my clients because I'm a pushover, and people can take. I've had several businesses, and I've had people take advantage of me, and I just a lot of times let it happen. And so I have to really start, and I have gotten a little bit stricter with myself, but, just for instance, you get on a call, it's supposed to be 30 minutes and you have someone that just wants to talk and talk and talk. And I'll fall into that instead of going, okay, we've got to end now, not in those words, but you know what I'm saying. So I think I'm just too lenient. I can be a pushover in a lot of ways. People can just, I don't want to say take advantage of me, but in a sense, sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Jenny, you have something you want to follow up on that?
Well, I do want to just comment to something that Arline said. There are times when I set my appointments for 25 minutes and if we go over and I don't stop it, mm-hmm. right? Because it's a good conversation.
Yeah.
Or because I'm getting something out of it, because it ends up being fulfilling in some way. And I can look at my calendar and say, okay, I have a little bit of leeway here. That's one thing. I don't see that as really not sticking to your boundaries, right? So, and it's giving yourself some grace in that when you say, oh, you know what, looking at it objectively and saying that conversation really should have ended.
Yeah, there's a difference between the two. Yes. Sometimes, I kind of get led astray by the talker or whatever, and I just know it's time to end it, but I just let it go. And yeah. But,
what about in your home life, in your personal life? What boundaries do you?
I'm the type of person that I'll take it and I'll take this and I'll take, it doesn't bother me. But then all of a sudden it's like enough's enough, Mm-hmm. But I have mellowed a lot over the years, so I don't let too many things bother me. I've had, just like anyone, ups and downs with business and everything else. And so now I just kind of really go a lot more with the flow, which kind of is good and isn't good because it's not setting boundaries, but it is. Does that make sense? It's like I'm setting the boundaries I'm comfortable with, but they're not super rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think it's very important to set boundaries. I'm on social media quite a bit, and manage many Facebook pages. And some people, they feel so comfortable. They feel like they know you, and that they can just reach out and personal message you at, on a weekend or during non-business hours. If those people are not already a client of mine or an actual friend, I'm pretty strong in my wording to those people, saying, hey, this is inappropriate. This is not following the etiquette of the group, and set them straight. And as far as calls, I have a block off for phone calls during the day. I only take my scheduled calls are between 11 and what time, Sarah? I don't know. She keeps a calendar, like 11 and 2. Anything else is if I'm on a call, it's because it's something that just developed that needs to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's only 11 to 2. And I did have a call today that was before that with a client, and the call went an hour and a half on the phone, but that was a $20,000 phone call. So at that point, he could have took 2 hours of my time. You got to I think when you're setting your boundaries, you have to factor that. And a lot of times we're setting the boundaries for the benefit of our clients to get our workload done. Because if I was on the phone all the time, I couldn't be serving my clients. So I may be working at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't mean I'm taking phone calls at those times. Let's go over, Jenny, who should be the next victim? Do you think we should pick Katie or Jennifer or Norma or Domenic?
I was going to go with Diego, actually, because he hasn't been on in a while.
Okay, sounds good.
Nothing against the rest of you.
No, I appreciate it, Jenny. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for noticing I haven't been on for a while. So boundaries, that's a great question. And in real estate, commercial real estate, it's a little bit easier than residential because we don't normally have evening or weekend hours like you do in residential. But I would say the biggest boundary I have is when people push me to do things that cross over the lines of integrity. And when you're dealing with listings, that can happen. And when you're dealing with buyers who've got issues to close, we run into that. My license is more important than any client that I'll ever work with. And there have been times where I've had to say that plainly to them to let them know that it's just non-negotiable. So that is definitely one boundary I have. And on the personal side, I love helping people. And so time is one of those tricky things. I won't say with age, I've gotten better. I'm not a pushover like I used to be. But that being said, if it's a choice between my family and anything else, anyone who knows me well knows that's always going to be my first choice. And anyone who I work with will respect that, because I will respect that if they have a family issue, that has to be their first choice. So those tend to be my priorities. And like I said, anyone who knows me well knows my social media presence, knows that's what I revolve around.
Right. I mean, it's more than your license, really. It's more than the license. It's the code of ethics that you adhere to, both personally and in our industry. And my father was a real estate attorney in South Florida. His heyday was in the 80s. So basically in the epicenter of the most corrupt city of the time, the wild, wild west of real estate, which is South Florida. And I remember as a kid, him calling in a crime lab to come out to his office to confront his own clients who had said that they had signed a document at a certain time and they hadn't. And, they confessed right before they had to go under the scrutiny. And I was just like, wow, that was, very impressive to me. My father could have just said, well, I'm going to pretend I don't know. So therefore I don't have to, it doesn't impact me, but he would not allow them to, attempt fraud in his office. It's real difficult with family. I think residential attorneys in residential real estate with children, they have it's a lot of difficulties because the job is not a 9 to 5 job, and it's not a Monday through Friday job. You can certainly set those boundaries, and there's agents that have put that into place. But if you're real hands-on, you need to be available to your client while they're having a heart attack. And in this market right now, that's almost every client. There's no very smooth transactions because the quantity of transactions have gone up considerably, and the quantity of talented professionals that can handle it have not. There might be a lot more real estate agents, but there's not a lot of more experienced real estate agents. That stays at the same amount.
Stephen, to that point, if you don't mind my just adding in, and I know you're a master at this, it's a matter of setting expectations ahead of time. If I don't subscribe to my client's emergency as my emergency. That being said, if I haven't set the expectations ahead of time with them, then I probably have contributed to that emergency. So I do my best to make sure that we are following the processes and meeting market expectations each step of the way, so that we're not running into them.
I mean, a good agent or a good salesperson is also good at game theory as well. You know what the possible outcomes are because you've either studied it or you've experienced those outcomes before. And there's a limited number of outcomes. And when it comes down to it, you're going to close or you're not going to close. And if the preparation has been done up front, most likely you're going to close the deal. How long it takes to get there, that's something that may differ. But if your client is aware of that, they're going to be a lot more successful. I put it into the perspective of, okay, you're getting money from a bank, and that bank is getting the money from the government, and that the government is getting that money from the people. So you're basically getting a lot of free money. You may have to be patient and jump through a few hoops to get that free money. And that ends up being true in almost every single transaction. Jenny, why don't we go to Andrew Pierce and get his feeling on that and what he thinks about with boundaries, because he has no boundaries. The guy will do anything. Go right ahead.
Well, that's semi-true, Stephen, and that's just
there's a difference between doing having no boundaries and being willing to try things. Like, there's a big difference there. They are not one and the same.
Yeah, and like Diego said, my social media presence and the way I pop up everywhere all the time makes me look like I'm super busy. So using that, I just say, hey, here's the link to my calendar. Pick a time that works for you. And everybody's always said, don't let your clients control your schedule. I'm like, here, take it. Fill in blanks. Where do you want to go? Let's do this, because the times they can't choose are my times to do whatever I want to. And the only way I will work after hours or on the weekend or anything is, like you said, if, the client's on fire and we're that close to the closing table and something needs to happen. But for the most part, I let the clients, either the future clients or the just became clients, drive the boat. And then, like Diego mentioned, I set the expectation, but I also under-promise and over-deliver every single step of the way, which is something I learned in the restaurant business, so that it looks super smooth and fluid on top. And it can be a complete dumpster fire in the back, but they don't need to see that.
Right. What I just told a client the same thing. I said, there may be a dumpster fire in the back, but in my 10 years of closings, I can't count on one hand the deals that didn't end up going to closing.
Yeah. It's their money and our job, just like in a restaurant. You come in for dinner, you want your steak burn all to hell. Okay, I might not agree with that, but if that's how you want it, it's my job to give you that. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and then the same thing with the real estate thing. I may not agree with you as this being the best purchase for you, but you have it stuck in your head that that's where you want to go or how you want to get there. Okay, let's do it. I'll get you there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jenny, part of what helps you with keeping boundaries is having people to help you with your time management.
Yeah.
So I know you just hired someone. Was that part of the reason?
Let's be clear. I hired her 6 weeks ago. I onboarded her yesterday.
Okay.
Because I didn't have time to get I like, which speaks to a few things, right? Like what I do, what Andrew does. I send out a link to my calendar and I'm like, hey, oh, here's the time. Like, but the caveat to that is I only open specific times. It's not 9 to 5 every day. And when people send me their calendars that are open from like whenever to, I'm like, why would you do that? Why? Like it stresses me out thinking about you with your calendar.
Well, how do they take care of the rest of their workload? I mean,
right. Like I don't get that, but yeah, so I have a very limited availability, but I make that open to people for very specific things. The only things you can schedule on my calendar are one-on-ones. You can't schedule photo sessions unless I'm doing a very specific event where there's a time for that. You can't schedule, coaching times with me for your social media. You can't schedule marketing sessions with me. The only thing, and that's one of my hard and fast rules, because I had a finance coach that kept yelling at me that I was leaving money on the table. Not yelling, she didn't yell. But I was leaving money on the table by not having a digital calendar, right? So that because the back and forth was then costing both of us money. And this way, I'm not I'm not leaving money on the table, and I'm making myself accessible, and I'm doing it in a way that still lets me honor my nice paper planner that I love and will not live without. I'll rip it out of my cold dead hands. And coming into the 21st century and having a digital calendar.
Well, I mean, part of it is too, it depends on your industry too, because yes, I mean, there's certain services you charge more for, but there is pretty much a limit of what you can make in 1 hour out of your own work.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to guard that time. Norma, you don't call yourself a coach, Jenny, but you are a coach. I mean, that's really, they're hiring you as a marketing coach.
Mm-hmm.
They're working collaboratively with you. Norma, as a coach, what boundaries do you have to set, both business and personal?
Well, my boundaries are more in terms of energy rather than time. Most of them, I think you're talking about time. But as a coach, I am most effective if I have my energy in order and I'm not stressing or anything's going on. So in terms of the business, I have a new boundary that I just really realized about a month ago. And that is clients or potential clients who have trigger words. And by that, I mean, sometimes you're having a normal conversation and somebody just goes off because of something you said in a normal conversation. So you said something, Steve?
What are some of those trigger words?
I wish I knew. I had a client, I kind of suspected she was kind of in that category. And so when I signed her up for my group program, I only offered her a monthly payment option. I did not offer her an annual payment option because I figured that might happen. Well, it just took 3 months, or actually 2 months, 2 times in the group. And I was talking with her and I made some statement about parents in general. And for 10 minutes, she just fussed at me and argued with me and raised her voice and just in a strange way. So I was very polite and nice on the conversation. I asked her to calm down. She didn't. But as soon as she hung up, I called my VA. I said, take her off of every list you have her on. I refunded her right away. And I sent her a very nice email and said how nice it was to meet her, but we're not a nice fit. And my lesson there is whenever I meet someone or talk with someone business-wise who seems to have a trigger or seems to have something that will impact my energy negatively, that just turn around and say, no, thank you, because all money's not good money. So that's the one boundary energy-wise. And now on a personal side, I have a similar energy thing, and that's all of my friends and people that I do business with also, they have to be able to laugh. Because if they don't laugh, they don't belong in my energy space because I have to laugh. I'm not me if I can't laugh. If you can't make me giggle or can't make me smile or I can't do the same for you, then it's not a good fit. So it's kind of the opposite of things that, that I'm ordering, because it's time-wise, I can manage that. I mean, that's not that difficult. That's what they have VAs and things of that nature for, especially when you know your weaknesses. But the energy, my energy gets off kilter. I'm not as good for a client as I'd like to be. And I get results because I keep my energy straight.
Well, something you do for your clients is you give them the confidence to know that they have the ability to make an income. They have the ability to make money, but now they have to choose how they want to make their money.
Yes.
Right? Because I think you reach a certain level of maturity where I can earn as an entrepreneur. You have to, to be an entrepreneur, you need to have the confidence you're going to make the bills. But then once you get to that point, you need to say, how am I going to, the time that I am spending to make money, is it worthwhile?
Exactly, because I'm in a growth stage right now, and I can't grow if I'm not making money, and I can't make money if my energy's not straight. So it's just it's a very, very easy arrow to follow. 1 + 1 = 2. So if I don't have the energy and I don't have the clarity, and then I can't give that to my client. I can't convince them that they actually can make money in doing anything that they want to do. And I have to
for you finding that client that can make you smile, or a friend that makes you smile, you're more likely to be able to deliver in full to them.
What the deliver?
You will deliver what you promise to deliver to them.
Absolutely.
Friendship or success. And therefore you're going to enjoy your business.
Absolutely. That's where my clarity comes from. My clarity comes from the ability to see things without the clutter. And without the clutter means having my energy straight. And so that's top of line for me, in anything that I do.
Well, we live in a world that, sorry, Stephen. I was going to say, she lives in a world that is maintained by good, energetic boundaries so that you can serve your clients and your family and your personal stuff.
It was a hard lesson to learn. I had to learn that, but that's exactly what it is, Jenny. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Jenny, knowing Norma, speaking to her for a year now, can you imagine anyone wanting to give her a hard time? It just doesn't seem logical because she has so much to offer.
So here's what I'm going to say to that. People are going to be drawn to her because they will feel that she can help them. Mm-hmm. And the going off on her part is entirely about their either unwillingness or unreadiness or lack of awareness or whatever it is that she's, they're drawn to her for a reason, but they don't understand the work that needs to be put in on the self to be able to commit to working with her. So, and to go through what's going to need to happen for them to grow and change and make more money and do whatever it is. And it's that insecurity that is driving those outbursts, right? Where people are going off on her, but it's really not, it shows great courage and everyday bravery, right? That she's able to be like, no, this is not how any of this works with me. And I'm just going to zip up my energy over here and pass this off and be like, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not the great one for you.
You're very perceptive on that. And when my kryptonite on all of this is when I find myself trying to rationalize why I should take this client on, or why I should be this person, or why I should forgive this situation. But if I stick straight to my energy boundaries, then I don't have to worry about that. I'm good. So if I see myself rationalizing, maybe, no, that means just, it's not right. Let it go.
That means you're letting those feelings get in the way, and then you feel bad for them because the potential that they could be excelling towards if they were to work with you.
You sound like you've been there, Jenny. Yes.
I think we've all been there. And panelists on 3 Martini lunch and attendees to Rockstar Connect events, they're a specific subset of the population. They're trying to achieve certain things in their life. As Norma always stresses, authenticity, being true to oneself, doing things that make us happy, engaging our success, probably different than many other people do. And that's the value of having this discussion for the people that are listening and participating in this. And Jenny, thank you for the excellent question. Let's go out to California to Rhonda.
Boundaries, huh? Well, I agree with what everybody said. I do control my calendar. And I've gotten better at blocking off times when, I'm not talking to clients. That's been because you all said it. So that's been really good for me. And I think the biggest boundary that I have is with me, and that is just turning off. Just say, okay, it's 6:00. I'm done. because I don't, there's always something else to do. And so, and I've started a lot earlier than I had been. I joined a couple of groups, and, they have their Zoom meetings at 7 a.m. So that means I'm up really early, dressed, and, so for me, it's setting my own personal boundaries. And on a personal level, it's the same thing. What I've really gotten better at is setting boundaries with my daughter. It's basically, look, if you're going to do something, then you need to tell me you're going to do it, because I'm going to work my schedule around you. You're an adult. And that, I think, has been one of the hardest lessons for me, is just, setting boundaries with her.
I think personal boundaries with family and friends, they need to be established. So you have your schedule and they have their schedule. If you're making plans for the weekend, let's make the plans, let's put it in writing, and then we can get the other people in our life prepared for that.
Yeah, I think
my clients, they don't want to interrupt a family function, but they need to know that there's a family function or a time that I'm going to have blocked off.
Yeah, and it's funny when Norma was talking about, with energy, before I ever learned to really set boundaries, I had not set them with clients. I hadn't set expectations. And I had a client that literally would text me at all different times. And then if I didn't respond within 30 minutes, she would get all upset, and I realized, okay, I never set the expectation. I never set the boundaries. And I did exactly what you did, Norma. I wrote her a beautiful email, and I sent her a full refund. And I said, with grace, I bless you, and I don't think we're a good fit. And whatever I've done has been my gift. And, I wish you well. Because I realized that there are some people that will never learn boundaries. And that's okay.
Andrew will appreciate this. When I posted a meme this week that someone put up in a group, and it said, someone asked me what it was like to be a real estate agent, so I texted them 20 times in 2 minutes until they started to cry. That's just part of certain career. Even if you set a boundary, people are nervous.
And even then, Stephen, I leave my phone on silent most of the day.
I have to.
When I finish something, I'll look and see if there's anything worth responding to, or if it's just a bunch of Facebook crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll answer what I need to, and I'll put it back down, and I'll go walk off and do something else.
Sarah and I are going through a real estate transaction now, and I'm really holding back, contacting my lender to see how things are going. And because I always sort of like, oh my God, these people, they don't let you alone when they're getting their loan. And now I'm in the same position, and I'm dying to get a report every 5 minutes. But I'm restricting myself to say, okay, if I don't hear from him today, I'll wait a day before I reach out. So I'm trying to have, empathy for other people. And recently I've started utilizing emails more frequently with an accompanying text, and just writing much better emails, with all the details and all the information, so that when those people do have that time that they go over their emails, they'll know exactly what's going on. But taking that little extra effort so that people don't have to write back and saying, what are you talking about? And who are you? Right before the show, I got an email from someone, and it was referencing a specific property that I have nothing to do with. They wanted to know how much the commission was. And I said, I don't think I'm involved with that transaction, but if you do want to send me a commission, this is the commission I would like. I don't know. I'll let you know afterwards if they send me any money. Sometimes, you never know. Sometimes people will just put you on a transaction and you don't know. And it does happen, not frequently, that you will get a check out of nowhere. How about we give Jennifer a shot, Jenny?
So yeah, I pretty much had a situation that all of you have just explained, especially Norma. And I didn't realize that how important it was to set a boundary until as of this last year. Was that specific person that acted just like that nightmare scenario. And I thought this person would be, a good partner, et cetera. And I had to let him go because it was just too much. It was doing everything, including overreacting, which is one of the most horrible, microaggressions / passive aggressives that you can do to somebody by making you feel guilty that you're not contacting back within the first few minutes. And you can imagine that, and that is the worst case scenario, and you just have to let them go. Just not worth it, because in the end, it's taking away your energy and any creative space and the ability to work efficiently on things that will, that have a better workflow, that have the better chance of giving you, the cash flow that you need now on your current projects and clients. So, yeah, if you have someone like that, it's not worth it. Yeah, the sooner you cut them off, the better. Lesson learned. It's very naive. I admit that's one of the biggest life lessons. You cannot put yourself to be too available, and having to use Calendly and setting the boundary for your times is a lifesaver. That way you set your time, and then you only, use text and email is the best way to get in contact with you. No more phone calls and all that as freely, because then they'll just say, oh, I can call you anytime I want. And then he's like, no, no, let's just end that right there. Yeah.
That's a great perception on it with boundaries. And I think that you have a team, right, Jennifer? You have a team that you work with.
Right. And we utilize the online apps, everything. So it's mostly just, typing and not, verbal.
So we have a lot of clients with Rockstar Connect, and there's a handful of them that, rather than going up the channel of communication to the people that can help them, they'll come directly to me, and I have no means to help them, because I would then have to go back and investigate, what they need, and then try to figure out how it's done. I just can't do it. Those of you that work with teams, how do you get your clients to respect the boundaries of who they should speak with? Like Diego, that's something you probably have to come up with all the time.
Particularly when we're dealing with dual agency also, that can be challenging. But my team, we function as one. So there's three of us. We work, all three of us work on the deals together. And so we don't really run into those issues. If I had a larger team where I had specific buyer agents, specific listing agents, then that might be a little bit more complicated, but we haven't run into that. We haven't really run into that issue.
Okay, so let's move over to Clint. Do you have an answer to Jenny's great question?
Of course I do. If it's asked by Jenny, I'm going to do my best to answer it. So professionally, it happened to me when I first started this business. The new business that I'm in, never been in this vertical before as far as copier sales and whatnot. And I had one of the sales managers that was an old school guy, and he tried to get me to work differently. And I don't work differently than I do. And I told told the company and the owner to give me a chance to show the way that I work. And so he did, and it worked. And the guy still tried to change me. And it goes back to like when I was playing tennis back in the day when I was a teenager. I was taught a two-handed backhand. Then I switched to another coach, and he tried to teach me a one-handed backhand. I was like, nope, I can't be with that anymore. And so I went back to my old coach. So it's kind of like that for me on the professional side. And personal, I do everything work-wise for myself before I do anything for anybody else. So do my journaling, do my exercising, do my meditation in the morning, just work on myself before anybody else. Don't pick up my phone. Unless I go for a run, then I pick up my phone to put on my podcast or my book or my music or whatever it is. But other than that, I usually don't touch it unless my wife texts me before 8 o'clock. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have boundaries. I don't know if your parents set rules for the phone when you were a kid.
I didn't, Stephen. I didn't have a phone when I was a kid, bro. I had a pager when I was 17.
I love that he thinks that like half of us are that young.
My mother and father always said, business hours are business hours. You don't call anyone before 9 a.m. unless it's a life or death situation. And 5 o'clock is the end of business, and then you don't make any calls after 10 o'clock.
No, bro. My business hours when I was growing up was dark. When the street lights came on, I had to be home. That was my telephone back in the day, bro. That not, so no, I didn't have any limits like that. Now, I guess you can change it to video games, because I did have a Nintendo and Super Nintendo and stuff like that. And no, I actually didn't have any limitations with that. Amazingly enough.
I'm just, people have a tendency now for business to call way beyond business hours.
No, I just won't pick up the phone. So yeah, I'm in that group.
Yeah. So let's go over to. We're going to finish out with you, Katie, and then we'll go to Domenic now.
Okay, so I have no boundaries as a person, and it's actually something I am trying to work on as a person in my personal life and in my business. I mean, I'm someone that is an oversharer. My mom has said to me since I was a kid, Katie, maybe leave a few things for mystery. Like maybe not tell everyone your entire life story the moment you meet them. But that's who
why not?
It's like,
I would say you have a very good story. I mean, I knew a lot about you within the first 5 minutes, but that's why I wanted to continue doing business with you.
And I mean, I think I know I've said this before in here. When I was a teacher, my principal always said the best and worst thing about me was I'm the same person all the time. Like there's no shift from like teacher Katie to person. I mean, it's like I'm always me. And so it's hard for me to shift into like the right situation. I'm just always me. And that's like loud and a little bit. And, I tell you everything, whether you want to know it or not. And maybe it's not appropriate, but I'm telling it to you. And so I'm working on that. But also I work all the time and I find myself emailing or texting. I mean, that's one of the first things I tell my interns is like, I might text you at 11 or 12 at night. Don't feel like you have to respond. Like, don't feel like you have to be working, but like, I'm probably working and I need to text you because we're going to forget. I email people in the middle of the night. Like, I don't expect them to respond, but I'm not like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, time to stop working. But I do, I am everyone's best in case of emergency person. So put me in your phone as that ice, in case of emergency, because I always answer my phone. My phone is in my hand. When you text me, I respond within seconds. It's one of the first things people say to me is, oh, wow, I appreciate the quick response. I'm like, it's always in my hand. If I don't respond, it's probably because I'm dead or like really mad at you because I always have it in my hand. And so there's just I don't block off time in my, it's like when you want to talk, sure. I try really hard to like look at my, if I'm with friends, not step aside, like take an important call, any calls for work is important to me. So I'm like, oh, I got to take this. So I'm trying really hard to like separate things out. Or I have had people start texting me at like 9 or 10 at night about work stuff. And I will, if I'm like watching a show with my roommate or having some wine, I might just not respond and think, you know what, I'm going to do what most people do and say, this is an inappropriate time. And, in my mind, just not respond until the morning. So I usually I'm trying to do that more. But, it's really hard to like offend me. It's really hard. I don't really know the lines. So
that's just the way you are. That's your authentic self. You don't really have to apologize for it. I last night I worked until probably 2 a.m. and I got up at 6 this morning to continue so I could get ahead of my work so that this weekend, if I don't have to do any work, I can have some time alone. I did have my assistant, someone made an appointment on my calendar for a 6 o'clock phone call. I said, 6 o'clock, that's not happening. I'm either making dinner or I'm eating dinner. It was our friend, Rhonda was one of our friends from San Francisco who always likes to book it around that time. And I, put my feet down. But being authentic, I think, is great. I mean, you're very similar to Sarah in that regard. Sarah's very quiet today because she's not feeling well. She has a very bad headache that we hope that passes. But Sarah is Sarah all the time. She doesn't have like any fakeness at all. And that's why people really like her and trust her because she's Sarah. And I think that everyone who's a panelist on the show is that way too. There's complete transparency. You're seeing them, if you're watching one of the attendees, these people are exactly the way they are on this program in real life and will be just as helpful to you too. I know you have the ability in this day and age to reach out to any of them, and they would love for you to reach out with them, especially if potentially it could be a business situation and everyone can make some money from it. But don't take advantage of the fact that they're that available, because they really are extremely busy people. Katie especially. Yes, Katie?
Yeah, I would say the one thing I have like put up boundaries with is, how people treat me. I will like stop engaging with them or having them be part of my business or my life if they're, cross a certain line. And I've had a couple instances. I've had 3 specific instances where other companies or businesses or nonprofits have been either really have provided unsolicited constructive criticism that was just like rude, or have screamed at the top of their lungs at me for no reason. And those kind of things, I don't ever really let them know they've burned a bridge with me for business purposes. I don't want them to be like offended that I was angry and then say negative things about me or going places. But in turn, I end the situation in an appropriate, mature way. But then internally, we know we will not be working with those people again. Just because I don't want to engage. I'm not going to engage in a fight. I'm not going to engage in like making them more angry. It's
hard.
Yeah.
I mean, burning bridges is difficult. Sometimes it does have to happen. I can probably count, I'm 52, so I can probably count on both hands times I've had to do that, and one recently where I had to burn a bridge. But
burn it, they just don't always know. I just kind of like retreat from like communicating with them again. But I don't react to, besides being like, you need to calm down. We're not going to talk anymore. Instead of like, I diffuse it, but I don't go off on them and let them know like we're done forever. I just kind of become a distance majorly where they figure it out kind of thing. But that's really my only big boundary. I have had some people like with my online course who are like, oh, I want to have a phone call to start one. And so we schedule a call, I block out a half hour of my day, and then they don't answer when I call. And so then it happens, again, I'm like, I'm done. I don't have time I could have had another meeting. I could have been doing something else that half hour. I was prepared to speak to you, and now you keep blowing me off. Like, I'm done. You clearly aren't the type of client I want anyway. You can't make time for a call. So I've become a little more strict with that. So I'm proud of myself for that.
There is that boundary. Worst 3 words in business. Pick your brain. Can I pick your brain? Worst 3. People that say it, gosh, you want to run from them. Domenic, how about the question of the week?
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree. I like when people pick my brain, because then that potentially becomes business.
I mean, it's one thing when they say when they do pick your brain. It's another thing when they say, "Hey, do you have time so I can pick your brain?" That's a little much.
Let's schedule some time. That's an appointment.
But I think it also depends on how, like for me, if somebody says I want to pick your brain, I say, okay, how can I help? And let's set up a time in my hour, and I give them my hourly rate.
Sure. Right, because your intellectual property is what you're selling.
Exactly. So with those who are selling a service, like, and it's different if it's no, for none of mine is different. Nope, I take that back. But for somebody like Domenic, those appointments, right? Like that would be a like relationship building leading into business, so. And there's not going to be a good textbook answer for everybody for that.
I mean, for me, usually when someone is asking to pick my brain, it is completely, I have no idea what they want to pick my brain about. It could be about 1,000 different topics. Mm-hmm. And maybe some of those items are, not to be picked out, without a cost. Go ahead, Domenic. I'm sorry we interrupted.
So to solve that problem for myself, I have added to my Calendly basically a pre-questionnaire. When somebody fills out, wants to set an appointment with me on my calendar, I know exactly what they want to talk about. I ask them discovery questions before I even have to get, before we even have a conversation. So I know exactly what some of their pain points are. And then, I can flesh out from there, right? If I know somebody's going to waste my time, I can also see, what it is that they're trying to talk about and whether or not they're trying to sell me versus having a conversation legitimately about developing a relationship or, wanting help with some of the things that I help people with, right? So I kind of have some speed bumps to people who are trying to turn me into unpaid entertainment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to set the boundaries.
Yeah.
In our market, if you're renting out, if you're doing rentals, there's no money to be made in rentals,
right?
At all. You actually cost you money to show rentals. So I actually set up a consulting fee. I said, if you would like to see rentals, it's a $1,500 charge. I'll show you this many rentals. I'll help you, with the paperwork. And if you buy a house in the future, I'll rebate the $1,500 to you.
Makes
Not
sense.
one person has ever taken me up on it. It's a conversation ender right there, which tells me they didn't really value the time to begin with.
Nope.
They probably would not have been the appropriate person. Well, this
but
is
if somebody took,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, if somebody did take you up on that, they're serious in having your help in finding the right housing situation for them. So it would be worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not just a door opener.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out there you can pay them, $50 and they'll go unlock a door for you so you can see it. But everybody's time, everyone's time has value now associated to it. Someone this week reached out to me and they wanted help hiring employees. And when I heard what they paid, I said, well, you're going to have a very hard time getting employees. You just are. You're not taking into account what wages are today. People have, value their time and they value their freedom. They got a little bit more freedom during COVID. Although they were locked in their house, they still determined, how they were doing their work. They got a taste of what all of us have every single day for the first time in their lives. That's going to be life, that's going to be really changing the whole dynamic of employer and employee. Does anyone want to have the last word, Jenny? Do you want to have the last word before we go?
I'd be happy to have the last word.
Please go ahead.
I think that, again, this is I'm going to say what I said at the beginning. Not this conversation doesn't happen often enough, right? Whether it's, figuring out how you need to protect yourself energetically, if you're aware of that, if you're into that kind of thing, whether it's figuring out how to make sure you don't burn out, right? Because burnout, if you're feeling burnt out, and that can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. But if you're generally not feeling excited about what you do every day, you might be burnt out. And that usually comes from some kind of boundary misalignment, right? So it's really important that you have a support team in place, whether that's friends you can talk to, other business people that you're networking with, some way for you to have a support structure in place. A business coach is a great one, accountability partners, whatever you want to call them. Also to really look at how you're protecting your time. And if, that's the number one way that you can easily maintain boundaries is to look at your time, protect your time, set appointments with yourself, create an appointment with yourself once a week to check in so that you can be sure that you are doing everything that you can do to excel and be successful and create whatever it is that you're trying to create, right? If you're trying to create a generational wealth, if you're trying to, build a legacy business like Katie, if you're trying to do things for the people who are important in your life, right? Like any of those things, just make sure that you're protecting those things. And it goes for the same way in life. Don't let people be mean to you. That's a boundary. Be nice to other people. That's a boundary. There's so many things that you can look at. If, we talk about it all the time on the Girls Who Do Stuff because that's one of Sarah's things. That's her jam. So if you have any questions, you can always hit me up if you want to talk more about boundaries. We love to do that.
Pick your brain.
Don't pick my brain,
Pick
but
your
I'll
brain.
talk to you about boundaries specifically. And I'm going to set that boundary.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for the last word. This has been 3 Martini Lunch presented by Rockstar Connect. Go to rockstarconnect.com to see all the events that are starting to pop up all over the country. Very exciting live events all over the United States. One's coming up near you, Rhonda, in Roseville. So that's rockstarconnect.com. We are looking for new hosts. So if you want to reach out to us, you can make an inquiry on the website. Everyone, thank you for coming, and thank you for your insight as always. It's much appreciated.
Thanks so much.